Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is, what is today? Monday, November 23rd. And let's see, did I start everything I needed to start? No, I didn't. Okay, so where's my mouse cursor? Let's pop up the chat so that we can actually see it. We don't need song requests. Again, I decided to stream earlier today, A, because I was awake, which is always a good reason to stream, and B, because I figured going a little bit earlier might help avoid the issues I've been running into with network being an issue, certainly, but um, who knows? Like, I'm not really seeing that. I'm seeing major network droppage already. Let's see. And trying to set everything up. Sorry. I should have done this before I hit play. That was dumb of me. I think what I did wrong here is probably this. Let's see. What does it say in here? YouTube's not receiving enough to maintain a smooth stream. It kind of would be nice if you could just default pin a message each time. Okay, and now, where's my mouse cursor over here? Let's suspend that tab. Sorry, not doing anything really super useful. I can say that in the process of setting up my shutting down my server, it did seem like that messed up my Nextcloud install, mainly the Postgres issue in particular. Uh, and that was just a nail in the coffin as far as I'm concerned with Postgres. Postgres compared to MySQL as a database claims to be better, which inherently in server technology, that is pretty much what every new technology says, is that it claims to be better, and then you have the arduous task of actually testing and trying to figure out if their claims are accurate or if they're just blowing a lot of hot air. It might be better, but it very well may be completely unstable also, which I think that probably is the case, is that it is really unstable because there's no good reason to be losing the entirety of a just completely losing the entirety of um, a database for no good reason. Nextcloud also is its own personal app, still seems almost impossible to set up and configure to work correctly by default. It's kind of silly. Uh, but there is a app called Folder Sync that does a better job of backing up using the Nextcloud um, WebDAV interface anyways, so I would suggest installing the Nextcloud app to potentially browse files and use other services that you might integrate into a Nextcloud server. And then I would suggest using folder sync to do full backups of a cell phone, Android phone, to a backup folder on your Nextcloud server. I think we may have fixed this. So I'm gonna have to figure out a better way to make sure nothing is synchronizing or uploading when I want to stream. Let's start playing. Sorry for sitting on the same screen. Now, for the accountability section, I didn't just mess on my server. Mess on my server might be as accurate as mess with my server sometimes. But I actually did accomplish several little adjustments and tweaks and things. Just as far as internal apps into Nextcloud, because it has its own like internal app system and setups and configurations. But I also finished playing Disgaea. I believe that's the last thing I talked about, which was 2 or 3 hours of that, and I was like, yeah, I just don't see anything in Disgaea that I would really want to play. Need a Forcecraft victory, so either roll this 50 or I roll this. So now we need to get one Runecraft, but we need to focus more because I only have 6 days as far as Forcecraft victories and Shadowcraft victories to get the animated things. I did not play any solo. I finished Disgaea. I played a game called Forward to the Sky, which was a nice, brief... It was almost a cell phone game, but not quite a cell phone game, in the fact that it wasn't being played on the PC, and there was a slight level of I guess length and ambition to it. What's weird about Forward to the Sky is that the company that made it then turned around and made Panty Party, which, like, they probably gave up on trying to make adventure platformers like Forward to the Sky at that. And there was just like way too much budget obviously spent on the story and the dialogue and the voice acting when there was not enough 3D level design. There was only 6 levels in the entire game, which did make it very easy to finish. And in each level there was 100 crystals to collect, but to collect the crystals you usually would go to 2 or 3 statues to get 25 crystals, and then the remaining of them would be simply... I don't even know how to do the greetings thing. I think I've muted it. Oh. There you go.
Nice to see you.
Ah, so that you have to hold down the left mouse button. So, yeah. There was some roughness, certainly, in Forward to the Sky, but a very easy game to beat. It's kind of surprising it has a boss fight at the end. It probably shouldn't. In favor of just more platforming games. Let's see. Dark Alice.
Lands of marvels. Can I go with you?
And so after I played Forward to the Sky, I started to play a game called A Story About My Uncle, which is a almost like Bionic Commando style flinging yourself through the air via swinging on a electric whip game. And I figured that was pretty much all the game was going to be. Is that it was going to be a fairly simplistic, you just fling yourself around and maybe you'll get a small bit of story here and there. And then they introduced an entire species of humanoid frog creatures, one of which is following you along on the journey, and I was totally not expecting that, to say the least. So it was a very surprising twist, but it's a twist that comes after the first level, which took me, I feel like 45 minutes to do. So they definitely should have shown like one of the frog creatures or some of the frog creatures jumping around, and you should have chased after them in the tutorial level. They should have probably just beckoned you and been telling you the tutorial commands. Like, it's a weird experience otherwise. Very, very weird. Weird experience to go that way. The rest of the game, though, is like every level is about 30 minutes long. It's an incredibly dark area, dark cave you're in, where you don't see a lot of stuff, and they started to integrate the idea that you can't see things into the concept of the gameplay, which is not something you'd want to. It's probably the first game I've ever gone and adjusted the gamma on. Let's see. Can evolve this follower at the start of the next turn. We can attack here. So I'll probably finish the story about my uncle. It's created from the creators of the game, the Goat Simulator games, and so you know in Goat Simulator that the goat flings himself via his tongue with very wonky physics. And how Goat Simulator as it is not really a game. It's more of a joke. Well, that gave me 13 skeletons. Do you get more skeletons if you have too many cards? I wouldn't have thought you would, but apparently you might. I desperately need to optimize and upload some videos, but also I'm not really in a point where I would want to. What does this do? That. And that. Yeah, I need to schedule some more videos and continue to upload videos and continue to just get the paperwork, the boring stuff done for YouTube. And then I'm thinking I need to find a way and a justification to get back to I need to find a justification to getting back to playing the 999 visual novel.
You're too strong.
Just so I can uninstall that. I have a whole bunch of games that are installed right now because I haven't scheduled videos, and I typically don't uninstall a game until I've done the full scheduling, just to remind myself. But in the case of 999, I haven't finished it. I also probably need to play Danganronpa, because I think it's Danganronpa that I'm talking about. I think I have that game, and the Game Grumps keep playing it, and I keep peeking my head into that. Of course, in all fairness, the Game Grumps playing Danganronpa are doing their little funny voices and making a joke of the whole thing, and me playing a visual novel murder mystery game like Danganronpa, I'd probably take it more seriously and probably have to read out a lot of stuff, and that's the big burden, certainly, of wanting to cover some of these Japanese visual novel games, is that it is a lot of commitment of my voice to use to voice all the characters. Here we have YouTube advertisers just a minute ago posting. On YouTube, people can express and share their passions from beauty to baking. Discover the viewers what viewers are watching now with our latest viewership trends. And you can see how in that statement that their focus is beauty to baking, which is a really stupid sentence because beauty is alphabetically B-E-A. Baking is B-A. So it would be baking the beauty. And when you say from one key phrase to another key phrase, you typically want them to be either completely opposite in concept or completely opposite in just alphabetical wording. Beauty and baking are not that opposite in concept, nor are they opposite in lettering at all. They've made an alliteration there for no reason. If you were going to make the same phrase, you'd probably want to try to have something that starts with A. But unless you want to say analytics, which analytics are somewhat popular in the form of political analytics on YouTube, or just analysis, to make a B word. So baking is a good B word to start with, but then you want something that's XYZ, and so Y would be a good one. Yodeling, or Z could be zookeeping. That would be a big somewhat popular group too. Specifically picking beauty and baking totally shows that there's a focus, probably a sexist focus towards female audience, which inherently the female audience is a target demographic for a lot of advertising. But then it's also potentially an indication of just the general sexism on what is preferred on YouTube. And it has over the years started to feel very much like that YouTube in its completeness has tried to focus more and more towards female-friendly content, and I don't know if that's 100% Susan Wojcicki, or if that is just YouTube employees in general. One of the problems, I couldn't really fix the quality of service issue as much as I would like with my router for YouTube uploads, because YouTube uploads are inherently, I suppose, just web traffic. So it might be possible to just maximize connections on port 80 and port 443. At least I think that's how it's working. I'm not sure. Really? Well, let's talk about video game news, because we're probably not going to get any better connection today. And it is still going just back and forth. I don't know why. I don't know what's really going on. I tried to close every single thing that might make any kind of connection to the internet or a server internally, in case it's just my internal network that's getting bottlenecked. The only thing I have running is the cell phone game I play, Destiny Child, which they're doing a story based on Winter's Tale. And oddly, they're doing it where you have to actually go and purchase the story for about 4,000 gold, which is nothing, to see that story, instead of it being given to you in the World Boss event, or it being given to you as you awaken the characters, which that's typically where you get stories, is you run an awakening scenario that will open up a story about that character. But yeah, I have that running, just trying to use up all the stamina. I've fallen behind consistently using up all the stamina. But that's it, and that doesn't use a lot of data, really. It connects to a server in between each battle, so every minute and a half or so it connects, not in any considerable amount. And of course we have Shadowverse playing, which of course that takes data. But I don't know what you do there. Yeah, honestly, I just think that the network in general has just gotten worse and worse. And of course, this is United States Thanksgiving week, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of bandwidth being used up from Black Friday purchasers and shoppers, and people in general just being out away from their standard location. So yeah, maybe we'll get lucky and things will slow down in December, but I bet not. I bet we'll probably have network trouble into January, if I was to guess. Moving on, we have a game here on Steam called Aurora, a Child's Journey, which is, you'd almost call this girl a chibi 3D model, but I don't think this is a Japanese developer, and I don't think they really are going for a chibi animation style, maybe just slightly inspired by it. If anything, you might call her like a big-headed Funko Pop style too, although maybe Funko Pops are a little bit more blocky, square-headed. So she's in this like garbage shanty town of a flooded world. It looks like it might be decent. It's free, and it's English, Portuguese, Brazil. Is it made by a student? No. So I'm just going to add this to my wish list. I think I do want to play this. I wouldn't be surprised if this really is a very short experience. I wouldn't be surprised if this is an attempt at teaching a developer teaching themselves how to program, which I'm okay with all of that. There we go. There was a game I played a year or two ago. There are some videos playing here showing some other areas, so she doesn't spend the entire time in the flooded village. She ends up in kind of a fiery factory somehow. That's unexpected. There was that one game where you were on a boat and your brother was like sick and you were trying to find medicine for him, and it was this entire planet was flooded and it was a empty world pretty much, with the exception of maybe a 10 by 10 grid of buildings that you had to climb around and parkour. That was a decent enough game. It did not really go anywhere. It wasn't as long as I would have liked it to have been, and perhaps maybe there should have been some different acts. Had they quickly put out some DLC or sequel to it where it was just more buildings that you climbed, that there might have been an interesting take with that. Alright. Just go ahead and hit that. Go ahead and evolve that.
My beauty will intoxicate you.
That, and that. See, this next game is called Suck You Mate, which would sound like a adult visual novel, but apparently it isn't. If anything, I'll say the animation looks pretty bad. If you told me this was a game from the 1990s, I might be able to excuse the game graphics, but no, I really can't. So here's Suck You Mate. Here you have a succubus, kind of 90s animation style character. You have some typically larger busted women. They're selling it for $13.49, and it's from Kagura Games, which is bundling a bunch of things: English, Japanese, Chinese. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Chinese, actually. I won, so thank goodness for that. I won and was awarded a pack, which I didn't open any packs today. So let's do that while we were thinking about that. Let's see. Back to the shop. New card packs. Alright. So 1,000 real world money crystals to get this exclusive item. Or just one pack here. It probably wouldn't hurt to open a few more of these packs since this is limited. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like I should be over 50 before I started to do that. And we still are trying to slowly make our way to 400. Honestly, at this rate, I'm probably not going to have 400 packs by the time this rotates out of rotation. So, probably need to rethink what I'm doing. I will say Shadowverse fails a lot of times too. So that 15 out of 16 cards, it fails to move smoothly. Like there should be no loading section between here and there. That makes no sense. There should be no loading section from here to here. There should be matching here. see. What I wanted to do, though, is head over to Steam in general and see if there was a sale going on. Because we're in a weird position here where it seems to me like there really is just nothing happening. The Command and Conquer Remastered set is 35% off for $12.99. That's probably about as good as you're going to get it, frankly. Titanfall 2 is on sale for $9.89. Titanfall 1 probably not a great discount, but being sold and advertised. Then I hit the OK button. Oops. Sorry, and I went silent. Spaced out there. Right now, they're having a sale between, I guess, till the end of today or till 10 a.m. for the Latinx Games Festival. Latinx or Latinx, I don't know how people prefer to be pronounced that. Generally, in my small observations, individual observations, I've not found anybody who you would stick under that category who actually wants to be put under that category or described that way. But yeah, we'll just move on from that. I don't hate the idea of sales. It does, however, make a question certainly about, is there going to be a Black Friday sale or a November sale at all? Yeah, we have a collection of games, 2 of which are coming soon. And then we have some games that I probably looked at immediately and just rejected. Looking here, like Valhalla is one I recognize. We have Monica a Gordo dos Colahars. Haven't heard of that. Lamplight City is on my wish list. Let's see.
I interest you in reasonably private things.
So weak.
The part of the problem certainly here that you're going to run into is there is just a lot of Portuguese Brazilian games that are really, really bad. Like Brazil is kind of known for making kind of bad games, and none of the Latinx companies, I don't know of any that are super well funded or super successful. So you have a incredibly short list here of games. Like this list is not going down any further, and I don't think that's because I've done something with the visuals to it. Let's see.
Hope this isn't weird, but can I get your autograph?
Need a loan?
Why did she play that audio? Hmm. Yeah, there's nothing extra. It's really an embarrassment of just minimalist there. So I don't know how you have a sale when you want to highlight Latinx developers when there kinda aren't enough Latinx developers in existence to justify that.
I interest you in reasonably priced medicines and be blessed. Need a loan?
As my guitar gently beats.
There we go. See, because if you were going to do like a North American sale, then you open yourself up to all the North American developers and Canadian company developers, and then you just flood out the Latinx developers. If you merge like the Latinx developers with African developers or Middle Eastern developers, that really doesn't make sense.
From yours too. You're gonna die.
So I just don't,
Guitar gently beats. So weak.
yeah, I just don't know how you have a sale like that. What you have to do inherently is, instead of having a games festival that highlights games developed by Latino and Latinx developers, you have to have a games festival that celebrates the Latino culture. Then you can get Guacamelee in there, even if that might cause some controversy, and you can get a lot of games that were made in America but have a character of Latinx or descent, or at least a bit of influence from Latinx. I think they're conceding here, but yeah, I think that would be the easier way to do this. Let's do an experiment here. I'm gonna just type in
Kiss my ass.
Mexico and search. Wow, that phrase.
I won.
I don't think you want to voice record something like that. That it gets even close to sounding like that's what was going to be said. Like, I know that was supposed to be a cheeky joke, but in all seriousness, if you want your game to be kid friendly, get rid of the foul language before you even get rid of the anime legs and cleavage. Right, so if we look here, just what has Mexico in the name, there's a lot of DLC. There's Life is Strange, Payday 2. A lot of times Mexico is set somewhat as the place where drug dealers are. Dirt 4, Highway Blossoms. I don't know why that's being listed. Let's see. Guacamelee, The Ball, Libertad de Morte. A lot of these are not in English. Shank. Yeah, you're gonna have to heavily go into stereotypes in games that have stereotypes for you to get some of the better games. Narcos. Seems like there's some train simulator games. But yeah, definitely a different collection there of games just by searching for the word Mexico. Now, if I instead search the word Latin, which I would assume wouldn't. This guy's gonna get annoying fast, so let's see if we can. Yeah, you can't directly mute him. Just gonna play here. Attack here in the turn. Let's go ahead and
Shadowverse.
say
Which hands are the praying hands?
turn that off so we don't get annoyed.
Stay away.
So if we're looking for the word Latin now, we have Latin Simulator, Space Engineers, Cartel Tycoon, Kentucky Route Zero. A lot of these don't work, but some of these definitely would work. Just Cause. A lot of the Far Cry games probably would be Latin. I wonder, Lines Infinite's coming up, I don't know why. El Tango de la Muerte. What you could also do is have a game that's just have a sale for games that are not in English. That'd be an interesting sale, but probably a bad sale to have in English-speaking countries. But then you might be able to expand into the idea of making let's see, hit that, and then go with that, and then go with that, and then that.
Let's play.
You could sell games that include more than one language, certainly. But yeah, even trying to cherry pick and really investigate here, there's a fairly small number of games that fall under a category of a Latinx seller.
Stay still.
But it also is going to feel very weird to potentially this weekend have a much bigger sale. Although maybe that's just some good sneaky accounting, because now they can just say, well, nobody bought any of the Latin games because everybody knew they were saving up for the Black Friday sale, when in actuality nobody bought the Latin games because there was literally no desire to own them. Right.
Not one for pranks. Can't figure it out. You're done for. Time to dance.
Go ahead and hit that. Here's that game, Monica y Guarda dos Coleos, which looks like it's kind of a co-op tower defense game of some sort. Doesn't look that interesting. Definitely doesn't look like it's worth $14.99. English, Spain, Spanish, Portuguese, Brazil. See, if there was a way to search like Spain, Spanish as a language, that would be interesting. Because you could probably get a significant list there just by language. Although, once again, you run into the scenario that it might not be a good list. It very well might be a very bad list.
I'll take care of them.
Salvation surely awaits.
Let's move on. I don't want to stream all day, even if we are somewhat not going too bad. Here's another game that was on sale, Treachery in Beatdown City. That looks like an NES game for making a beat 'em up game, like River City Ransom Clone. It's got 20 positive reviews. It's from March 30th. It's $19.99. Like, these are really, really hard sales.
Put your legs into each prayer.
And frankly, I'm not sure that this isn't a troll game, because you have like Obama, basically, and you have them like punching Trump, I think. or facsimiles. 1 second. Sorry, I had to pick up a package. And man, I was about to win there, and instead I'm now doomed to fail. This guy was annoying anyways. I don't feel any reason to keep playing with him.
I lost.
Let's just concede and save ourselves some time. Like, normally I'd be nicer to people and let them play out their strategy and show off, and practice, but if you're gonna spam emotes on me from the board go, then continuously spam emotes going forward, I've got better things to do with my time. Here we have a game on Steam called the Prologue to a Dream Home, which is tagged as an experimental visual novel, which looks like it is just a collection of real-world photos trying to tell a visual novel. It's English only. It's $1.49. It's saying it's inspired by Higurashi no Naku Koro ni. I have no idea what that is. Is that a Higurashi When They Cry game or story?
Come on, let's play together.
Like, sounds almost like they just made up a Japanese sounding phrase. Regardless, the game itself looks like garbage, so there's really no reason to do any more investigation. Next, we have a game on Steam called Safe Squares, which looks like it's a chessboard puzzle game where you learn the movements of different pieces, which just might be useful to teach kids how to play chess, but honestly, you probably don't need as many puzzles as a game like this would have to teach a kid how the pieces move. Here you can see they even say, well, Safe Squares is designed to be a fun standalone game. It's also a great tool for chess education if you want to level up your skills. Safe Squares is a great place to start. English only. How many levels? Endless puzzles, it says. I don't believe that. But we see a novice 1. And we see an expert 6. So I wouldn't be surprised if there actually is maybe only 25, 30 puzzles in total.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Definitely feels like a cell phone game, and it definitely looks like a game that would be better if it was a cell phone game. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Vault of the Void, which is a card-based game of some sort. I don't think the animation's particularly great here. You might convince me that it was an art style, but it's kind of a weird 6-armed mime art style. This is the screen that particularly kills it for me. This screen here with all these little artifacts and the thought that cards would have artifacts which might be modifiers, it's pretty bad. And while this doesn't look terrible, this guy kind of does, and this guy looks pretty good. Let's see, early access, $14.99 single player card game. Don't think I could justify that. In general, if I'm gonna stop playing online collectible card games, I've probably got 2 or 3 standard, like offline single player card games I could play instead. And that is a potential thought, certainly, is that if the network is just getting so bad, we could pull out something like Slay the Spire and play that multiple times through, and just have that be the card game to play. Or if I could find some other game that's not a card game that's slow enough and turn-based enough. Suppose if I was playing a turn-based RPG, I could possibly play that forever. If there's some grindiness to it. Alright. That. And that. And then hit that. And then evolve. Let's see. OpenCritic has an article here. The Last of Us has received a series order from HBO, which, okay, like, you really can make almost any story and call it The Last of Us, frankly. Or you could just go through the story of the first game and not touch upon the story of the second game much at all. Or if you only get like one season, you could say the next season would be the second game. I wouldn't be surprised if they even tried to stretch it more. Let's see, play this, and then this, and then evolve here.
I'm done stick. I told you to leave.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Last of Us order from HBO, in a lot of ways, had been planned much earlier, and they're just trying to release it around the time of the video game awards. Speaking of kind of pointless video game events, I'm not thinking I'm gonna do anything with the X-Play event. Like, I probably won't even be looking at Twitter or YouTube in a way that YouTube would know they even suggested to me, because, like, I was watching X-Play at least for a couple of years before I ever started watching YouTube. You know what would be really crazy is if X-Play came back and then all of a sudden it was this website where video gamers could upload Let's Play videos, and it was the new hub to replace YouTube for gamers, and then Twitch competitor. That would be kind of insane, and very interesting if they could pull that off. Not sure they really could.
May all life prosper and be blessed.
Oh.
You're mean.
But yeah, I don't think the Thanksgiving reunion thing they're planning on doing for X-Play is worth my time. I'll certainly talk about whatever happens there, if anything happens there. But I imagine, uh, even if X-Play is coming back, it's going to be a lot of promises with no substance for the reunion, and it's going to be a lot of looking back, not looking forward. Which, in all fairness, that is probably exactly what you would want if you are still a rampant X-Play fan, is to look back and be nostalgic. It is a tall order to try to make X-Play continue and be the thing it once was, amongst a very different playfield and a very different world that exists now. Next we have a game on Steam called Planet Bash, where you're a planet apparently bashing down buildings that are constantly building up, and apparently things are trying to attack you also. This almost looks like a fun game. It feels like it would be fairly repetitive in a score game, but if arcade games are still your thing, and if arcade games can exist in modern time, I would say this potentially might be that. This might be something. $4.24, English full audio. I'm going to put this on the fall list, not because I'd ever actually play it. I don't think I would. But because I would just like to see if anybody else receives it well. Because that would be interesting. I'm probably saying interesting too much now. Here we have a game called Batu Game, which looks like a Diablo clone Chinese game. With all the trademark, way too much text, and mobile interface. English not supported, Chinese free. Yeah, is it an MMO? Yes, it is. It is probably an interesting anthropological investigation that needs to happen to question why MMOs are so prevalently positive in Asian countries that tend to be overpopulated. Wouldn't it make a little bit more sense that single player games where you were by yourself and could just have peace and quiet and contemplate, would make more sense? If that's not the case, then is this literally a situation where Western countries that, by a Western perspective, are either populated just right or only slightly overpopulated, and I think nature-wise speaking, everywhere is probably overpopulated, but perhaps to the human brain and the human mind and societies, perhaps the Western countries are actually underpopulated, and there is a desire for even more interaction and connection. I could believe some of that, but there is a certain level to that I can't really believe also. So get a small buff here. And hit that. Next we have a game on Steam here called The Purification, which is just a low frame rate, low effort first person shooter zombie horror game. It's early access for $12.49.74, English full audio. Yeah, there's nothing impressive there. It's just a lot of dark screenshots and terrible heads-up display. Every screenshot has the heads-up display in a different location from the top left corner, different distance. Gamasutra has a job listing here. Hi-Res Studios is hiring a level designer for Paladins, which, okay, I guess Paladins needs a level designer then. Let's see. 1, 2.
Best of luck to you.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4 would not really do anything. So I'm gonna do this.
Hey, let's play.
See.
It might be dry, but it's home.
Twitch support tweeted out on the 20th that channel owners can now set a cooldown period before an unban request can be sent, which mods can see in the widget. Channel owners can now opt out from of receiving requests. Both options are now updated in the moderation section. The idea that you ban somebody and then they can could up until this point immediately just request to be unbanned and continue to disrupt a streamer who couldn't even opt out personally and let the moderators handle it is just a level of insanity that really makes no sense. I'm not going to be able to do this the way I would want to do it.
You're done for.
Did not play that correctly, I don't think, but maybe I didn't have a choice either. That may have been the best we could do. What really stinks right now, and we don't really have any new news as far as the crappiness of YouTube, that they put out these announcements specifically to be buried amongst other news announcements and Thanksgiving and Black Friday, obviously, but what really stinks is that Twitch is starting to look better, not because Twitch has gotten better by any means. If anything, they've gotten worse, just in comparison that because Google has gotten worse.
What's that for?
At a certain level, like BitChute, my BitChute videos, that they get a few views. It's probably not a realistic thought to say I would abandon 400 subscribers for 3 subscribers on BitChute. That would be fairly insane, but
Don't cry.
yeah, there might be a scenario where that's the only option. And I don't know, at a certain point maybe I just reevaluate what I'm doing with my life as a YouTuber, as a failed small YouTube content creator. Like maybe it is,
It won't be long now.
maybe I'd get rid of the streaming aspect, which I never really wanted to do in the first place, and instead we just go through the news on like a weekend, maybe stream that, maybe just pre-record that. Get rid of playing so much of the collectible card games and have more time to play games I actually do want to play. Maybe just play less games in general and take it a bit easier. Although, in all fairness, like, I am in a delicate position, certainly, where I don't actually want to play less games, because if I played less games, I honestly wouldn't really know what to do with myself. I've got more free time than most people, and so it would be either playing video games for video content creation purposes or just playing video games for my own entertainment, and I'm not sure I know how to enjoy just playing video games anymore. And that was kind of the case before I even started my YouTube channel, is that I had really stopped playing video games for a year or two
Don't underestimate.
because I
Okay.
just
No
could
more
not
crying.
find any enjoyment in it as a wholly solo activity. That's why I started my channel in the first place, is because I figured it would be better to shout into a void and talk about games instead of spending 8 hours sitting in silence playing a game. And probably saying a lot to say that it was depressing even me playing games by myself. Anyways, moving on, we have a game on Steam here called The Struggles of Stefan, which looks like a low-effort platforming game with nothing on it. $6.99 English only. I'm not sure if we've hit a level here where
That should do it.
people are trying to release garbage games right before the Black Friday sale happens. And I don't know if that would increase your sales much. It probably would. It tends to seem to be the case that we're all Dragoncraft, Portalcraft, and Forestcraft now. It does seem like it does increase everyone's sales a little bit every time there's a Steam sale. So, TechCraft has an article, Bad News About Five Nights at Freddy's movie revealed by Scott Cawthorn. Let's see.
Time for me to prove myself.
There were several scripts that were ultimately passed on, which, no duh. The creator of Five Nights at Freddy's has created 8 Five Nights at Freddy's games and put them on Steam's. Which, inevitably, you have to remember that Hollywood is just an incredibly greedy place that wants to get the rights to everything and anything as cheaply as possible, and then sit on those rights until they either get a really good pitch or until the franchise becomes way more valuable than it is. Five Nights at Freddy's in particular probably is not going to become any more popular than it already is. But you'll almost certainly see within the next 10 to 15 years, which it may take that long, they'll make some low-effort, terrible horror movie that they will slap the Five Nights at Freddy's name on. There was a Banana Splits horror movie that came out like 5 years ago or so. And there hasn't been a Banana Splits cartoon or anyone who even knows what the Banana Splits are in probably 20 years. So that's just an example of how somebody somewhere, some low-level TV producer bought the rights, and he sold that as a good deal, and that probably got him a promotion or a bonus, and then sat on it and it's not going to do anything. On the other hand, you could also probably blame the developer of the Five Nights at Freddy's games as being oddly incompetent at actually making what he sets out to make any good. He just weirdly was successful in turning a kids game he was trying to develop into Five Nights at Freddy's, and then milking that for all it's worth, and good on him for doing that. But in all actuality, it's not like he's a good developer or a good writer or anything. He just got incredibly lucky. He is the one in the million game devs out there that got lucky. And of course, a lot of the reason why he got lucky is because he made a game that centered around jump scares that a bunch of streamers could use to overact and overreact to. Okay, this would do 3 damage. So, gotta do this. And then evolve this.
Away with this. Stop. Salvation surely awaits.
There we go. Next we have a game on Steam called All Black Phase 1, which is tagged as a visual novel psychological thriller. It looks to me like it might be a decent Chinese game or a uniquely animated Western game. It doesn't quite have the feel of a Japanese game. It's coming soon. It's English and Russian. So, Russian. Well, I guess I would be delighted if I ever managed to see a good, well-designed Russian game.
The star
But
is pale beside you.
so far I have not seen that.
Stop.
But we are seeing a development on the face of the kind of love for visual novels and anime in general in Russia, and I imagine that is not promoted by the government in any way. It's probably heavily deterred. Let's see. 2 and do damage.
Not one for pranks.
And then 1,
Let's play.
and then evolve,
It won't be long now. So smart.
and attack.
You are forgiven.
And then do that.
Let's play.
TechRaptor has an article here. The biggest flops of Generation 8. Here we have Mass Effect, probably Andromeda, the Wii U, the silent voice. Is all of this the silent voice here? This entire image? Here you have the Kinect, and here you have a Surface Mixer, wasn't it? Let's see. They're just gonna go through all of it. Mass Effect Andromeda, Anthem. Yeah, Anthem was a pretty big, hyped up game that definitely got wrecked in the fact that there's nobody that wanted to really play it. Let's do that. And then that.
What's for
And
dinner?
that.
Never lose that conviction.
See what else they have. The Quiet Man. Now, inherently, I don't know if The Quiet Man should be under the category of the biggest flops of Generation 8, because really all you're saying there is a game that was published by a big publisher but was always doomed to be a huge failure, and was obviously a huge failure even before it was out. To most people, failed. Had The Quiet Man been just an indie self-published title, there would be no justification whatsoever to having it on that list, and so I think that's really where it still should be.
Let's play. Let's play. This ends here. Maybe. Right away. But information.
Blue that. I'm gonna lose. The Ouya. Yeah. Failed fourth party or third party consoles. Are those really a big failure? The Kinect. I mean, the Kinect was probably a decent failure for Microsoft, but Microsoft can take it. Is that really the biggest flop, or just because it's not a game? At the end of the day, Ouya and Kinect might be considered the biggest flops simply because they cost way more than like The Quiet Man. I would definitely say Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem in particular, are much better concepts there. Mighty Number 9, I think Mighty Number 9 probably made more money than it deserved, so it's probably not the biggest failure. The Wii U mixer. What would I want to throw into, like, Mighty Number 9 is probably a great example of several games that could have also been big failures in like Mass Effect Andromeda, big disappointments. You could make an argument. Let's play Portal Craft, I think, next. You'd almost have to look at the money invested in a lot of these games and see if they that balances the equation in any way, because I do think you are probably The Quiet Man probably lost nowhere as much money as some of the other games out there. Even if you compare the Kinect to like Crackdown 3 was a big failure. And if you start to look at like games that were big delayed development games, or games that cost a lot to develop, then like the next Elder Scrolls game should probably be a flop of Generation 8, because there literally was no next Elder Scrolls game, and yet we know it's been in development. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been would be a big flop of Generation 8, because that's been in development. Duke Nukem Forever probably didn't come out in Generation 8. But you certainly could say, like, the remaster of Bulletstorms, you could have a whole category of games that were resold in remastered versions. Telltale Games in general, as a company, big flop in for during the Generation 8 of consoles, and honestly, like, consoles are kind of limiting this factor in a weird way, because when you think about it again, Mixer really has no connection to a Generation 8 of consoles. If that last generation was Generation 8, how you get that numbering system is questionable at best. Let's see. Go ahead and play that, and then attack with that, I guess. Hmm. Yeah, sorry, I went quiet there again. There's a whole category of games that we could certainly say are still in development hell. I think if you think really far back, like Shadow of the Colossus, or the sequel to the Shadow of the Colossus series, was Generation 8. And that was incredibly incredibly long in development. Yeah, there's quite a few things that were in development for a long time and did come out to not much response. You could almost make an argument that, like, Borderlands 3 was a flop of Generation 8. You could say that the Epic Games Store was a flop of Generation 8. Although it'd be hard to justify saying that. You could make a lot of arguments around a lot of different things. And I'm not sure that it really matters one way or the other. TechRaptor has another article here. Super Mario Bros. 3 becomes the most expensive video game ever sold. There you have another one that's been rated and sealed. You know, I was thinking about that. That there was this entire box of first generation Pokemon cards. I'm like, I was thinking about that more because I thought maybe I had that, but you know, I think more than likely I would have opened the packages. I definitely had a bad habit of opening packages and destroying any kind of value there, or a lot of value there. There might still be some small amount, and so, and I very possibly don't have an entire box, or I probably have a box worth of cards certainly, but maybe not first generation, maybe not in any shape. All of it's been in the garage for years, so for all I know, it's all been ruined. But yeah, I did have a Super Mario Bros. 3, and I don't think I was able to hold on to any of the boxes from the NES era. I had not become a quote-unquote collector until several years after that point, so a lot of my NES stuff, if I have any of it, is open box, and there's just nothing there. And see, that was definitely, even when I was trying to collect Nintendo stuff, the stuff that was the hardest to find was, hey, can I find a box for this? Can I find a manual for this? Can I try and combine 3 things so that I have it? This one has sold.
Speak. You just gotta listen.
Let's see. This one sold for $156,000. These video game memorabilia things are these type of things seem to be getting crazier and crazier. And I believe there's to get a regular copy of Mario Bros. 3 is like $20. But with the instructions booklet box and all inside the box, from the cartridge holder to other adverts, it's pretty much, it's much harder to get. I believe there's also like a slight difference in this art where his hand is behind the word bros, and that changes the value, I think, a lot too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the art, I'm pretty sure in later versions his hand is lower down, but that might be Super Mario Bros. 1. It gets hard to definitely not think about selling all my Nintendo collection and taking the money and run, but it would be something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. And so then it would become a question is, can I live with myself if I give in to greed and sell a collection that I worked on for over a decade and sell it to probably some individual collector who's going to put it in their collection and do nothing with it, instead of putting it in a museum, which is where I want it to be. Yes. Evolve. Next we have a game on Steam here called Dual Guns Fantasy, and here you have a kind of Final Fantasy looking character. This looks like it's a VR on-rail shooter. Seems like you're following around this girl, or you're playing as this girl. Maybe you're being the bodyguard of this girl. Quite the outfit here, designed for maximum skin exposure. But yeah, an on-rail shooter is not a terrible idea. I'm not sure I can really trust this game developer. It's $1.99 for a VR game. That's way too cheap. And it's English only, so I feel like a simple and short shooting game probably indicates that it is super, super short. And of course, this girl is 3D models, just an asset flip almost certainly. Alright, can we do anything else? Yeah, I cannot justify putting Dual Guns Fantasy on the fall list. Let's see. Gematsu has an article here. B Project Ryusei Fantasia announced for Switch. Which, what is that? Some kind of music game? Yep. Seems like there's a whole bunch of musical boys by the looks of it. It's tagged as a rhythm game. I lost. But I did better than I thought I would. Are we still trying to get Forestcraft victories? I think we are. I think we already talked about this. Nintendo shuts down the Smash Bros. Tournament over an online play mod. Yeah, Nintendo sucks. What can you say? At some point it seemed like they had asked him to not use the online mod, and the tournament said, no, we have to use it because we're social distancing and that's the only way we are going to be able to do this at all. And then they sent a cease and desist, which at a certain point I'm sure the tournament does not want to end up in court. And unfortunately we don't have enough lawyers that are crazy in that way to say they would fight Nintendo cease and desist. There are crazy lawyers, quite a lot of them, but they tend not to be crazy as far as losing cases or fighting cases against Goliath. It probably is a good argument for a diminishing power of cease and desists. Like, if a company sends out, say, one cease and desist a year, then it probably should have a lot more enforceable power than a company that sends out 1 million cease and desists. The DMCA should potentially work that same way. Like, even if there was just like a filing fee, like a particularly expensive filing fee based on the gross revenue of the company, like it would have to be something like 0.0001% of the gross revenue of a company. But even that would affect the bottom line enough that they'd have to really think about it. Clearly having lawyers on staff is not that expensive for a company like Nintendo willing to send out a cease and desist. Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Run Drill, which looks like a low effort, like infinite runner game with some hideous, like marker drawn characters. Hideous is a bit of an exaggeration, but the animation doesn't look that good. It's pretty bad. $4.24 English and Japanese. I don't know what to say about that when I see it implied to me that it's actually a Japanese game. Alright. Why is this cheaper?
Let's play. So weak. Stay away.
I don't know what was going on there. It's like Kami has an Kami effect that was doing something else. Here we have a game on Steam called Ancient Warriors Casino Jackpot. What could it be? It's casino games, probably Chinese. $1.59 English only. Alright, I'll say it's a Western casino garbage low effort game and move forward. Okay, I can see the beginning of the end now. Although because we started early today, there is a decent chance that there will be a lot of new news. Although it is also the week of United States Thanksgiving, so there's a decent chance that there isn't actually going to be any news this week.
Aw, beans.
Right. If I do 1, 2, that won't work. Here we have a game on Steam called Microjob. Interactive language learning game. Teaches the word through objects, pictures, and daily conversations with simple dialogues. Well, that sounds good, but honestly, I'm not sure if this is a real attempt at being a language game or if this is just an asset flip game. It's early access, $12.59, whole bunch of languages. Like, what languages does it teach you though? Just English? No. I don't believe this. This is too many languages, this is too ambitious, and a game like this really shouldn't be in early access. So if I attack there, that's not going to work, so best bet is to do something like that. And then hit that. And then hit that. And then let's go and evolve one of these. Hit that, and that, and that. And then the turn. Now, if I'd played this and summoned 2 more, I don't know if that would have given him an upgrade twice. Let's just do can attack 3 times per turn. Yeah, so Dagon, Lord of the Seas.
What's that for? What's that for? You're strong.
Just totally screws you between this being able to give that storm and then letting it attack 3 times. You see the danger of having a character with 10 attack in that instance. Yeah, Forestcraft and Dragoncraft and Polocraft. Let's try some Dragoncraft. You still, even if it was a language game, you still really can't play a language learning game and be certain that you are learning how to pronounce things or hearing it right or pronouncing things right. Language needs to have a teacher listening to you, someone who's very fluent in the language that you're trying to learn, very fluent in the language that they're teaching in, or at least mostly fluent in the language they're teaching in. And also needs to be a qualified teacher.
Bow before Dark Dragoon, ruler of the skies.
Well, I'm looking at a game here that's all in Asian characters, and it's tagged as having sexual content and nudity. It's $15.19. It's English, Japanese, and Chinese. It's got 11 reviews and it's mixed. From the looks of it, it looks like they've taken a adult content and merged it with a tavern simulator where you're acting as a serving wench and serving different foods. So that gameplay doesn't seem like it really matches. And in the tavern serving screens, you're just getting little pixely chibi characters. You're not getting anything interesting to look at. But in the dialogue, then you have characters in scantily clad outfits. That, frankly, I could show it all. Yeah, let's just show it all. Like, here's the title, if you're interested, if you can translate that. Here you have a girl on the ground with wing feathers around her, so she might be an angel. Here you have a big busted girl covered up by the screen. Here you have a demon girl in a bikini maid outfit. I don't think there's too many other characters. And then this is what the game actually looks like. It actually plays like, just looks like a cell phone game, looks like a tavern game, in no way looks interesting. Well, I managed to bore that character out of that. So nice, I will take that. I'll take that victory and move on with my life. So we are moving up the battle pass levels to level 43. We might actually be somewhere close to level 80 there. Still need to get a whole bunch of Dragoncraft or Portalcraft victories, but it's more important to get Forestcraft victories. Next, we have a game on Steam, Costa's Classic Cosmic Pizza, which, why not call it Costa's Classic Cosmic Sicilians? Even if Sicily starts with an S, that sounds the same way. For what the game really looks like, though, it looks like garbage. $8.99 English full audio, allegedly. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Laser Skirmish. We really are scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point. Man, that is terrible. Free, English, nothing more to say. Gosh. I did not curate. I knew when I was cooking on a couple of these that I was just going to straight up end up saying I should have not clicked on some of these. Let's see. The Libretro people tweeted out 16 hours ago for a YouTuber talking about Nintendo being absurd about Melee. Oh, I did see an article too that said the PlayStation 5 is the second worst launch of a PlayStation in Japan. So a lot of the sales numbers have been portrayed as good in Japan, but I've been saying, yeah, that number is larger than Xbox Series X and Xbox Series One, but that's not the numbers that you would have expected for a PlayStation. Of course, you could easily blame slow sales on the PlayStation due to lack of availability and the pandemic, and there's just a plethora of it's not their fault arguments that could be made. And it's going to be fairly hard to argue against those arguments. So yeah, you have to take all the sales with a bit of grain of salt, but you definitely would know that the PlayStation is a huge failure if there is even a week where more Xboxes sell than PlayStations, with them both being available. And it would be kind of a major failure if the Nintendo Switch, which is an older console, manages to severely outsell it on a week-to-week basis. Next, we have a game on Steam called Sim Casino, which is a casino simulator, apparently. It definitely doesn't look interesting. $24.99 English. Sim games tend to be too expensive, and that's no exception. Alright, well, we'll do this. And we'll end the turn. Next, we have a game on Steam here called The Fire Lord, which seems like you play as a fire wizard with several upgradable abilities. This seems a little too zoomed in, seems a little too cell phony, seems like it's might be a Chinese game. Or just a really oddly designed game. 79 cents English Russian. Okay. Not Chinese, Russian. Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot visually impressive in this game, and there's just an inconsistency on how far the character is zoomed in and zoomed out. And that's just concerning a little bit.
There you are, my little trespasser.
One, two, what does this one do? He'll get 10 back when he evolves a character. Next, we have a game on Steam called Lighthouse Keeper, which looks like a black and white game that's a little too black and white. They're calling it an experimental horror noir game. Even the game, this is English and Russian, 10 to 15 minutes long for 59 cents. That's not a reasonable length for any game, frankly. You need to go at least 30 minutes, I think, for a game, any game. Even if it's free. Okay. 2 fairies in hand. This. And then this. And then this. And then 3 of these.
Are the brightest stars in the sky.
And then, is there anything around evolving any of these? Nope. Yeah, the Return of Obra Dinn is a game that has a unique, almost black and white art style that can be black and white, actually. And I think even in that case, the Return of Obra Dinn is worse because of its art style, and I would have frankly preferred had it been in color with the same images. I think that the depictions weren't terrible. Okay. That. And then evolve for free.
It won't be long now. By the light of the forest.
Alright. And then do that.
Let's play.
Then end the turn. Here we have a game on Steam called Fear in the Modern House Channel 2, which Looks like it is just a horror asset flip game. With a very generic name on top of that. English not supported, $3.59, Portuguese Brazil, but then English subtitles. See, that's a prime example of the kinds of Latinx type products that you see on a day-to-day basis on Steam. Is a lot of just Brazilian low-effort game developers trying to scam. You can't blame them that much because it's not like they have any other opportunity. Usually, at least that's usually the case. It seems like that's usually the case. I don't know. Alright. Well, let's do this.
My hands are...
This evergreen sword will cut through their ranks.
There we go. Evolve.
This ends here. By the light of the forest.
That, and that. Here we have a game on Steam called Overslept, which is tagged as an indie survival horror game. Frankly, I feel a little overslept. I've been sleeping a lot over the past few days. Just like I'd wake up and just roll over and go back to sleep and do it over again. So I don't know if I haven't slept for potentially 24 hours in the past 48 hours. But in weird, probably not efficient patterns. Right, is there anything we can do here? If I could do this and then attack somehow, I'd win. But I can't. So I can do something like this. And I can do like this. I can play this. I can evolve here.
My beauty will so vile.
One.
This is exactly what I want. You're strong.
Nope. Apparently I couldn't even do that. So Overslept is $1.99 in English. I'm gonna put it on the fall list, but more than likely it's nothing. No, not Shadowcraft, Portalcraft. Let's see, is this gonna load? I was doing fairly good today with not having any images slow down. Although I do think I've done something to my router that has either allowed more JavaScript pop-up things or disallowed more. So I'm getting a whole bunch of click OK to consent, click OK to consent. But a lot of that's on my phone too, where I'm not using uBlock Origin to get past those. And close those boxes without actually consenting to them. But that might just be some new law going into effect, the GDPR or something. Here we have a game on Steam called The Young Archaeologist, and then you have a Egyptian guy. This looks to me like this is probably just a box sliding puzzle of some sort. It seems very simplistic, and I will applaud the variety in the art, but everything else looks pretty pathetically simple. 84 cents, 5 different locations, English only, probably is less than 5 minutes of gameplay at that rate. I don't know if this is actually video game news to talk about or not. I follow some adventure games, adventure gamers, point and click, Scum style adventure game sites, and I guess they have what you would call a retrospective article here. episodiccontentmag.com, Hunting Shadows, the making of Gabriel Knight Chapter 1. So Gabriel Knight is a point and click adventure game that I think I own, a whole series of them, and I was going to play. I haven't gotten around to them. And then there's chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5, so they want 5 pages. And here you can just kind of see how bad even a generic website is, with just ads all over the place, for even with ad blockers. Which, mentioning ad blockers, hey, YouTube is putting ads on small content creators and content creators that that did not want to monetize anyways, and they're taking all the revenue, so there's now no reason for any content creator really to speak ill of ad blockers, as it were. Next we have a game on Steam called Starfighter General, which is, by the looks of it, a space shoot 'em up game that's not very polished at all. Now what would be interesting is if all of these ships were like models based on probably copyrighted ships, but I don't recognize any of them, so I'm not interested by that appeal either. 82 cents, English only. Yeah, there definitely are some scenes in Babylon 5 at the end where you have multiple species with multiple ships fighting together or fighting against each other, and that does allow for a scenario where there was a lot of 3D, early 3D modeling being shown off. I think Babylon 5 may have been really the first TV show to use 3D modeling heavily in it at all. And it looks like garbage now, but it doesn't look that bad. I'm a little surprised that, what is it, J. Michael Straczynski, is that the name of the Babylon 5 creator? Nobody would know besides me. I'm a little surprised that in his craziness and desire to probably write more Babylon 5, that he didn't at some point push for a video game based off of it. Like, you could easily take the 5 seasons of that show and turned it into something like Mass Effect, but why do that when you can pay somebody a lot less just to make Mass Effect and potentially tell a very similar story anyways? Next we have a game on Steam here called Drum Media, I suppose is how that's pronounced. It's a black and white drumming line rider game, and I don't it requires VR. It's free. It's English. It's funny we're seeing like really cheap and free VR games all of a sudden, when we haven't been seeing that much at all up until this point. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody let it be known to VR developers that Valve was going to pretty much abandon the VR headsets. It's not like it succeeded. I think most developers probably could already figure out that the headsets are going to be abandoned. It's doing a massive amount of damage to me. I don't think there's a way to survive this. I'm not doing terrible, but not doing great either. I'm probably just fantasizing the past here, and this probably never happened, but I feel like at some point early in the first couple of years of playing Hearthstone, there was a good point where I had a really good deck and it was winning more than 50% of the time, and I was really enjoying it. Haven't had that experience with Shadowverse yet. Didn't have that experience with Magic the Gathering Arena. Although even in Magic the Gathering Arena, I did have a pretty good deck that would win more than Shadowverse. Shadowverse, I'm still in that early stage of not knowing whatsoever what I'm doing. Here we have a game on Steam called Frisbees for Fun. This looks like an asset flip game where you fling frisbees in a kind of physics game, as best I can tell. You bounce a frisbee and you hit a chicken, and then there's another chicken, then you throw another frisbee, and then another chicken appears. And then you bounce around. It seems like you're aiming with the mouse too, so it's not even a controller controlled game. 74 cents, partial controller support, bunch of languages, numbers for the achievements. Yeah, that does not inspire confidence. Next we have Gym Tycoon, which is about the 4th simulator we've seen today. It's real garbage over this weekend. $14.99, English only. Yeah, right. Oh, and man, boy, does it seem like Japan is just in lockdown so much. It's like we haven't had an interesting like anime Japanese style game or come out in quite a while to at least balance out these terrible low effort games. Like I yearn for the days in which we would get a whole bunch of visual novels that are just designed to sell on sex. Not that I was going to buy any of those games either, but at the very least, there's something visually attractive there, something that you could pretend like or fantasize like that it might be a good game. I guess I did grow up in a time where you could judging a book by a cover was kind of the thing, and there was the idea of something of what the story might be. Here, when you look at a game like this called Tower on Steam, you immediately know what this is. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter. It's an asset flip game. It's not anything of any interest at all. It's early access. It's 99 cents. It claims to have full audio and probably doesn't. Well, speaking of animes, I guess, The World Ends With You, the animation, begins airing April 2021. So I guess that's the hope, is that the new seasons will start around April 2021. Now, the thing about The World Ends With You is that it was a rhythm game that I don't think is actually particularly that good of a game, as much as it just had a kind of unique art style that people liked, and let's see. So by making an anime, they might take that interesting art style and take out the rhythm parts and give you a decent but probably derivative show that'll probably only go for one season, if I was to guess. Next, we have a game on Steam called Saurosity, which looks like it's a Super Meat Boy style frustration platformer. Seems like it moves a little bit faster. That's one of the problems with the game I'm playing right now, A Story About My Uncle, is that, and that's the name of it, A Story About My Uncle. It has 5 collectibles in every level, which encourages you to play slowly and make your way through the entire level. This is $10. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not making it to the fall list. But then A Story by My Uncle is a flinging yourself from one dangerous platform to the next dangerous platform. So game. So I don't know how you enjoy the flinging mechanics while also taking it slow, looking for collectibles. They're at odds with each other. The flinging mechanics and the time trial mode that you can play the level in definitely are designed to push you forward and to move as fast as possible. The flinging mechanics in A Story About My Uncle also are not well polished, and there's no real air assistance or air braking. There's air braking the player can do, but there's nothing that would just kind of guide you in the right way. So there's been many times where I've just barely missed the edge of a platform by an inch and fallen to my death. The checkpointing system's good, so it's not the nightmare scenario that it could be, but it is definitely more frustrating than it should be. Okay, what do we want to do? This. And then this. And then this. And then evolve.
It won't be long now. So sparkly.
Yeah. Moving on, we have a Gematsu article here. Demo Reborn is coming to iOS and Android on December 17th. I think Demo is a rhythm game. It's always the same image, and that's all you really see with it. So, like, and that's not atypical to have rhythm games that have very interesting visuals, but the visuals are literally just like one still image here and there, and the actual game is nothing close to what's being actually shown.
There you are, my little trespasser.
Like, can we do this?
What an oaf.
I think we might be able to do this. Here. 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 And then end the turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called My Universe Fashion Boutique. We don't see a lot of games targeting fashion fans, which typically are females, but let's face it, there are some males out there that like fashion too. And this oddly does not seem like a low effort asset flip game. This seems like this is actually an attempt at something. It doesn't even really look like a cell phone game ported to PC. Although it maybe is exactly that. Maybe it's a cross-platform game. Let's see. $29.99 is an insane price, however. And a bunch of languages. No in-app purchases. I was thinking, seeing the gold, that there might be a case here. But this actually does feel like a real game, so I'm going to put this on the fall list. I can never justify that price, but maybe it would go on sale. And typically I don't use price as a factor in consideration anyways to put something on the wish list or fall list. Alright, well,
What an oath.
this. And then do that. I'm spell boosting the cards in his hards. So I'm probably gonna get wrecked. Next we have a game on Steam called Solitaire Halloween Story, which just looks like a solitaire game for $2.99 English, French, German, Russian. You don't get that combination too often. It's basically all of Europe without any of North America or any of, it's not all of Europe, but the major languages of Europe. Still getting just terrible network servers here.
I embrace all manner of spellcraft.
Okay. Let's do this. I think this is the best move.
This bears further study.
Here we have a game on Steam called Shotgun Dungeons and Laser Traps, or no and, just Shotguns, Dungeons, Laser Traps. And that seems to be all it is some pre-made assets merged together very terribly. $5.99 English only.
Into the future is only the beginning.
This probably should be the last game I play, but I'll play potentially one more. Here we have a game called Battle Bugs, which is tagged as a real-time strategy game, and it's from 1994. I don't recognize this game, and it doesn't look like anything that stands out as being memorable. Although the concept, certainly, of a real-time strategy game where you control bugs is interesting. See, that would be something that I would like to see happen, but yeah, you kind of need to make a whole remake on that, and I'm not sure real-time strategy is popular enough to justify making real-time strategy with bugs. So at that point, you make a game like the Grounded game, where it's just a survival game with giant bugs. Next we have a game on Steam here called Atoms Ascending, which looks like it's a, well, they're saying action adventure game. It does tend to seem to have a lot of graphics around it, and it does tend to have several different gameplay mechanics. And I'm not sure I can trust this. Early access, $19.99, full audio. I don't know if I really believe that there's a game here. Because you got space, and you got on-ground shooting, and you're playing several different characters, and there's all kinds of different art assets here. You got a big old skeleton, and you've got a angel demon-like character, and then you've got Land Rovers. Yeah, this has got to be just an asset flip game that just has everything thrown in a blender. It can't actually have all this content and make sense. Yeah. I guess I'll be exceedingly generous and put it on the fall list, but I can pretty much guarantee you that a developer of which has not published any other game on Steam, which I just checked, is not going to be able to, as their first listing, have something this hugely broad and expansive. Well, Cyberpunk 2077, trying to get some good news, 2 hours ago tweeted, "Worried about copyright issues when streaming or recording Cyberpunk 2077? Don't be. We've prepared a feature just for all content creators. Disable copyrighted music. Just toggle it on and you'll be ready to go." Well, inherently, that only works if somebody doesn't claim all the audio in Cyberpunk 2077, which inherently somebody will try that. And that switch may just do the exact same thing that a mute music button would do. The experience will be inherently different and worse if you toggle that. Ideally, what you need is the ability to split the audio tracks to different devices. Because if you're a streamer, and this is probably about the only instance in which this makes sense, and it's probably not worth the effort to do it, but if you are a streamer and you could say, play the audio to my headphones, not to the recording software, not to the computer speakers, then, or a virtual computer speakers type device, a virtual device of some sort, that would be helpful. And I can kind of do something like that with OBS, but it doesn't work specifically for music. I could have, say, an image. I could have a tab in Chrome play audio, and I could have the audio play to my headphones and not play to the recording, sure. But I couldn't have a Chrome tab play audio and play only the spoken part and not the music part. Yeah, and inherently I just feel like that's just going to be an inferior experience. Now, on the real good news as far as Cyberpunk, it does seem to be some rumors going around that it's potentially a 175-hour experience. Perhaps that's because you can play as different characters in different ways from the beginning. So it might be a very repetitive 175-hour experience where you're playing as like 4 different characters for 60 hours or so. Or 3 different characters for about 60 hours. Let's
play. You're done for.
Hit that, hit that, hit that, and hit that in the turn. Here we have a link. This guy's pretty androgynous. There's a danger here that all the characters are going to become either extremely androgynous or over-sexualized. I think they're going to be over-sexualized, a lot of the characters. You'll be able to listen to over 150 songs created by wonderful artists representing diverse games. So 150 songs potentially you miss out on if you stream. It will disable a small portion of in-game tracks. Okay. So that almost seems like it probably has to go up to a server and just check the rights every now and then to have the list of what's copyrighted now and what isn't. What might be copyrighted later. Although, in all fairness, that is a better solution than what was offered for like GTA, where GTA music comes and goes from the game, and it uh, gets copyrighted every now and then. I think it does. I could be wrong about that. I could be just totally making this up. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Cat Mafia, which I think is a Russian game, although it doesn't look terrible. It is, though, pretty much just a beat 'em up game. $1.19, English, Russian. I'm gonna put it on a follow list. We'll see what the response is to Cat Mafia.
For me to prove myself.
This one's for my family.
Let's see. The game Rez, his birthday is apparently today. Anniversary. Yep. It was released on November 22nd, 2001. Tetsuya Mizuguchi is tweeting this. I don't know if he is the person who worked on Rez or not, but seems like he might have been. And that's pretty much the only kinds of games he's made, is just Rez and games that are a lot like Rez and remakes of Rez. But he is doing for the music field in games a lot more than most games do, so I can't say his talents have been wasted by any means. There should be more musical focused experiences in games that don't just boil down to pattern matching and rhythm games. Like there's a difference between wanting to appreciate audio in a game and wanting to be the person creating the audio in a game. And a lot of video games tend to not get that concept at all. In the same way that I can appreciate The Rock, for instance, in any of his action movies, but I don't really want to be the character that The Rock is playing in probably any of his action movies, because he's doing something incredibly dangerous and potentially detrimental to himself.
Let's play. Help me, fairies. Stay away.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Samurai Zero, which looks like it's a platforming game with a pixel art aesthetic. It's $1.79. It's English only.
I'll face you head on.
See, we have a Gematsu article here. Dragon Age creator Mike Laidlaw and Ubisoft veterans establish Yellow Brick Games. Now, when I hear Yellow Brick, I think that's somebody peeing on the wall, and I wonder if that is a spin-off on the fact that the Ubisoft logo looks like a pile of poop emoji. Or maybe I just have a dirty mind and it has nothing to do with that, because it could be Yellow Bricks in the Road too, which I imagine more people would think of that first, wouldn't they? Yeah, that does probably say something about me, doesn't it? But even the Yellow Bricks Road, of course, the Yellow Brick Road inevitably led people to a charlatan and a city of deluded people, because the Emerald City was not actually emerald. They just made everybody wear emerald glasses so that everything looked emerald in the book.
Help me, fairies.
From what I hear. I didn't read it. I'm not going to pretend like I did. So neither one of those are good implications either, frankly. Because if it is a Oz reference, then you're saying either all your employees are deluded or the people in charge are charlatans. So, and certainly naming your company is often a hard thing to get right, or pretty impossible to get right a lot of times, just based on the fact that there's Not too many new unique names out there.
You're dumb.
This, this,
Let's
this.
play.
See, they've got a logo, Yellow Brick Games, and you can see there's a girl with an axe and a dress flowing in the wind. That does not inspire confidence for any kind of Dragon Age style game. It'll be focused on high quality titles that put the player experience first. Does that mean no SJW politics into it, including innovative gameplay and the original IPs? I do know Mike Laidlaw as a name. I recognize it, but I can't tell you his personality or who he is, really. So a whole bunch of just like BS announcement stuff. Equal opportunity employer, the strong belief in the best creative team are made up of diverse members and strongly encourage people from all backgrounds to apply. Games are for everyone and the market is global and evolving in real time. A team of rich mixture of perspectives and skills is best equipped to excel in such a dynamic environment. Almost every game company probably has to have a SJW paragraph like that. That doesn't strike me as being so far out of line. And certainly you do get a lot of cases where the conservative anti-SJW that have gone just the exact same level of extremes in the other direction lock up on these kinds of announcements and get offended for no reason, or until before anything has happened to really offend them. For instance, like Animal Crossing has always localized to remove Christmas and Thanksgiving mentions from all versions except for the Japanese versions, which is a little weird. And yeah, you can be upset about it, but that's just been the case always. So if you weren't boycotting it in previous iterations of Animal Crossing, then there's really no reason to boycott it now.
Carried off by the wind.
See, TechCrafter has an article here. Capcom Retro Station mini arcade console revealed, which this is garbage kitsch. I can guarantee you. It's like you don't want a controller that is about to hit the TV/speaker. That is way too close to the TV. Even if this whole thing rotated upward, which it would almost certainly have to, it's still not going to work. And it comes with Mega Man X and some other Mega Man games and several Street Fighter games, and that's it. Yeah, Capcom doesn't even really have much of a lineup to offer. Alright, so I have 6 more days to get one more victory here. Ideally, I would play more, but I'm not going to play more to get to that. And then I don't have a good reason to open up any more packs, so that's where we're going to end it for today. And we have just like one more thing. To do, I guess, which is look at the Humble Bundle and see if there's any new Humble Bundles. Doesn't look like there are any new Humble Bundles, which I'm not surprised by that. I assume what we would have from Steam is a fall sale, not a Thanksgiving sale. That wouldn't really make any sense to have a Thanksgiving sale. Now I'm gonna go through my Twitter feed. Yeah, G4 TV has just massively increased its amount of tweeting. which frankly they should have probably had a bigger, faster rollout. Um, because they're putting a lot of like clips from old videos up and really trying to get people hyped. And yeah, we'll see. Second Dinner, the creators of the potential future Marvel game and the Ben Brode's company, put out a tweet. They haven't put out a tweet in a while. The Second Dinner family is growing, just like always. Slides later this week. Happy Thanksgiving. And then 3 new employees: Nick, Larry, Chris, and Zhao Yang. Which, okay. One of the things about Second Dinner seems to be that they are kind of very slowly ramping up, which is a little bit weird. Libretro says the playtest version of RetroArch on Steam now supports Linux as well. There's really no good reason why it shouldn't support Linux, considering how often the engines and cores of Libretro are running on RetroPie Linux and other versions of Linux already. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Libretro actually does run better on Linux than Windows. Let's see, what else have we got? We got a couple of games that have come out over the time. That we were streaming, yeah. I don't think there's a lot of them. Hitman 3 new location reveal trailer Under the Hood to premiere on November 24th. Here we go. Yeah, there is a Neo The World Ends With You has been announced for PS4 and Switch. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to line it up with the anime. And a remake of that game potentially would help. We've only been going 2 hours and 27 minutes. But I actually feel good about this too. I'm not in pain from sitting so long, so wrapping up early is nice. Here we have a Gametsu article for smartphones. Tomb Raider Reloaded announced for iOS and Android. And they are going for a soft CG cel-shaded look. They are sticking with the traditional Lara Croft look too. Which, if anything, this might be confirmation that they, now that the trilogy of the remake of Lara Croft has been done, it's very possible that they're going to just reboot it and bring the old Lara Croft and the old outfit back. Let's see. Or they may do absolutely nothing with this, because this is just an iOS and Android game. And maybe Square Enix really doesn't know what to do with Lara Croft. The real question is this just more Lara Croft Go puzzling? Or is this a different kind of game? And I suppose a bigger question certainly would be, is Lara Croft a kid's game now? Is that what this really is boiling down to? Is she just a female kid's game? Free-to-play action arcade game. That's what it's being labeled as. So it might be a stand in one place and shoot monsters type game. It might be an on-rails shooter game. Who knows? Tech Raptor has an article here. Able Gamers Charity partners up with Rainbow Six Siege's Sixth Guardian program. Which I don't know what the Sixth Guardian program is. Which Ubisoft just launched this Sixth Guardian. A series of charity bundles. Okay. Bundles will include unique in-game items and will give players a chance to support and donate to great causes and non-profits organizations. Rainbow Six Siege's developers in particular seem to be really obsessed with social justice, for lack of a better term. Like they're obsessed with the in-game chat being moderated, which I don't know if the chat is particularly terrible in Rainbow Six Siege or not, but at a certain point that is just your audience. And then they do, Ubisoft in particular likes the virtue signal when Ubisoft is really not obviously in the place nowadays, now that things have come to light, to be virtue signaling at all. Here we have a game on Steam called Pombero, the Lord of Night. And this looks like this might be a little bit more than just an asset flip horror game. It's got a nice little trailer. It's got some polish to it. There's some repeated content here if any of this images would load. Like these walls are fairly generic. They're not just plain white walls, so I'll applaud that. Guess I'll have to reload the whole page. There we go. Finally, the image just decided to load. It's not AAA level quality graphics, but this trailer does look better than most. $9.99. I'm gonna put that on the follow list. Here we have a Gematsu article. Neo: The World Ends With You announced for PS4 and Switch, which Neo meaning new. I assume this is either a remake or a continuation. Let's see. A recreation of modern Shibuya to life in a unique comic-inspired style. Players can play and enjoy the sights. It does seem like you are playing as a slightly different looking character. Yeah. So either this is a case of the character growing up and changing his look, or them putting in new characters. They may just be bringing in new characters. In a lot of ways, there was that Akiba strip game where you'd run around Akihabara and steal the clothes off the emotional vampires running around. I think this is kind of taking that same idea. Let's put some monsters in a recognizable place to Japanese people, and then let's run around and fight those monsters. And in a high action context like this seems to be a lot more relatable than even Akiba Strip was, because Akiba Strip did have that whole titillation aspect where I don't even think it ever actually showed any nudity. Or it had like a censored option or something. And then finally we have a game on Steam here called Deep Space, which looks like it's a first-person shooter polygonal space game trying to be 2 or 3 things. And yeah, I don't think any of it's visually polished enough to catch my attention. $1.49 English Russian. Okay. And then that will leave me, I think, Little Big Adventures apparently is coming to Scum VM. That we could talk about that more on. Let's see, how do you get the whole? No, they just ended the text with ... There isn't actually anymore. Big Adventures ahead. Little Big Adventures. Adeline Software released a game titled Little Big Adventures, or Relentless Twin Sense Adventure. This classic game, Studio 3D Act ... So apparently they're working on yet another game to be emulated by this ScumVM emulator, which is, with every new game, not emulating Scum games anymore because they've already accomplished all of that, and instead emulating just similar games of that style in just old games in general. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.